That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The 9th film directed by Francis Lawrence, which is being released courtesy of Lionsgate on November 17th, 2023.
Do I know a Francis Lawrence film?
Well, you know, he directed 3 of the previous 4 Hunger Games films, including Catch a Fire and the split-apart Mockingjays. His debut was Constantine, with Keanu Reeves and Tilda Swinton. He also did I Am Legend, a version of that film starring Will Smith, Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence, and Slumberland with Jason Momoa. But prior to his becoming a film director, he directed quite a few very notable music videos, including a special favorite of mine, which is How Many Licks. But
Little Kim?
Yeah.
Oh.
But he did several Janet.
Oh, what Janet videos has he done?
All Night Don't Stop was one of them. Son of a Gun, I think, was another. He did Run the World for Beyonce. Some Deborah Cox in there, Vanessa Williams, and I think his first was for a Tevin Campbell song.
Oh.
I Got It Bad.
So I already like him.
Well, his music video work, I find him kind of a... I forgot he directed the film Water for Elephants. He seems attracted to this carnivalesque element of filmmaking, but told in a rather uses a soft touch.
This movie is about Coriolanus Snow, who mentors and develops feelings for the female District 12 tribute during the 10th Hunger Games. What's your pull quote?
And so clearly this is a prequel set 64 years prior to the Jennifer Lawrence 2012 Hunger Games, based on the book by Suzanne Collins. My pull quote is, a surprisingly bleak, yet narratively elemental mishmash of derivative dystopia tropes. The film's real subversion exists in the delightfully garish and incredibly callous supporting characters bedazzling the decadent capital of Panem.
My pull quote. I have 3 words to describe this film. Long, silly, and dark.
Yeah.
Where to begin? There is so much going on in this film, which makes sense for how long it is, I guess.
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
It's broken up into 3 parts. I can just tell the story. So the 3 parts are the mentor, the prize, and the peacemaker. So this name, Coryo... Can we just start off by how much I hate the names in these movies?
Oh yeah, the J.K. Rowling, Suzanne Collins, the names are ridiculous. But Coriolanus is actually that's Shakespearean.
That name makes me think culo anus, and then all I keep thinking is anus. Anyway, so Anus is Donald Sutherland's character in the previous films.
Yes. Played by Tom Blyth here.
Correct. So he is part of like the capital people, like the people who have versus the have-nots, all the people in the districts. So this film is starting with the first televised Hunger Games. So the 10th annual Hunger Games, which I think is weird since I didn't read any of these books, so I don't know. But you would think that this being like a prequel, we would have started with the first Hunger Games.
Sure, but ironically, it starts when the public of the capital has become tired of the Hunger Games.
Which is why they're being televised, because they're hoping to gain more popularity again. But, so Anus, his goal, because his father was a prominent person who died in the war that created this whole mess. So his family is struggling within this capital situation. So he really needs to win this prize that they call the Panem Prize.
The Plinth Prize?
Or the Plinth Prize, which is this money that the president of Panem gives every year to like the top student of the school Anus goes to. So we meet him on the night that this like ceremony is supposed to happen. But the gag is, we're not giving the prize this year. Instead, we're going to televise the Hunger Games, and all of you mentors, all of you top students, you're going to be paired with one of the tributes. And based on your academic performance, plus how your tribute performs, will then be considered for who wins.
It's like RuPaul's Drag Race.
So now there's no guarantee. Right. So now Anus is worried because he's not going to get that money, and his family needs it. And his family consists of his grandmother and his cousin.
And Grandmam is played by the great Finola Flanagan. And Hunter Schafer plays Tigris Snow.
So the first part of the movie, the mentor, is that. The second part is the prize. So then we get the actual 10th Hunger Games, which are being televised with 24 tributes. And the tribute Anus is paired with is Lucy Gray, who I kept thinking Lucy Pearl.
Or Lady Jane Grey.
Or Earl Grey tea. But anyway, she's played by Rachel Zegler.
Yes.
And of course, so then the middle part of the film, 45 minutes, are these Hunger Games. And of course, everyone dies except Rachel Zegler. So then we think, great, he's going to win. But, so the president of the school, or the person who is in charge of the games, is played by Viola Davis, Dr.
Voluminia Gall.
And the dean of the school is played by Peter Dinklage.
Casca Highbottom.
And Peter Dinklage has this unreasonable hatred towards Anus. It's not totally unfounded because Anus's dad and Peter Dinklage used to be best friends. And those two, back in the day, created the Hunger Games. Like, it was their idea. Except Peter Dinklage is saying, well, I was just kidding. I was drunk or high or whatever, and I came up with the shit. But then your dad ran with it, and now we have this...
And took credit.
So now we have this debacle that we're in now. So he hates Anus. He's telling him, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that your life's miserable, you don't win this money, period.
To be clear, in the film, his nickname is Coryo. Just so everyone knows.
Okay. So when Anus wins... He's like, well, where's my money? But Peter Dinklage told him in the beginning, if you get caught cheating, it's curtains. You're not getting anything.
But he also told him he's not going to get anything
Plus,
anyway.
he already told me not getting anything. So as the audience, we already know he's not getting anything. We also know that Anus is Donald Sutherland in the later stories. So we know he's not going to
He'll be all right.
He's going to be all right. And we can talk about how he cheated. But because he cheated, he's punished. And his punishment, Anus's punishment, is that he's banished to the district to be one of these peacekeepers.
And have his hair cut.
Which is we're getting to that. Which is part 3 of the film. And the peacekeepers are like stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Just like generic soldiers who are controlling or occupying all these districts. So part 3, Anus gets sent off to District 8, whatever that is. But he bribes, which I thought was so stupid we can get to, but he bribes his way into going to District 12 because that's where Lucy Pearl is. And he gets there, finds her. They have this whirlwind romance where he devotes himself to her. But while this is all happening, Anus's best friend from school...
Sejanus, played by Josh Andrés Rivera, who's dating Rachel Zegler in real life.
He is?
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because in this film, I swore there was a gay love story brewing. But anyway, that character is the son of the president. So he is we find out that he's a rebel.
Well, they already staged his death during the Hunger Games.
Yeah. But because his dad's the president and he's rich, he can kind of keep his son safe. And his death is staged, but then because he's the president's son, he finagles his way to being placed as a peacekeeper in the same district as Anus.
Yes.
I swore he was in love with him. Anyway, part 3 of the movie is that the president's son is developing a coup against the Capitol. And just to wrap this up, Anus ends up killing the mayor of District 12's daughter because she finds out what they're doing.
And hates Lucy Gray.
And the mayor's daughter hates Lucy Gray, Rachel Zegler. So now Anus has killed the mayor's daughter. So he and Lucy decide to run away. North, away from all the districts. But everything sort of culminates in her saying that she doesn't trust him, basically.
She catches him in a lie.
And then he freaks out, and then he thinks he's shot and killed her because she runs away, but then he thinks he sees her in the woods, shoots her. He has this mental breakdown. But before that happened, Anus's boss tells him, you're being promoted because you're the best cadet here. And Anus jokes well, I'm the only one who can read, so I guess. But his boss promotes him to
District 2.
District 2, which is that's much closer to the Capitol.
Acapella flex path to the Capitol.
Which is foreshadowing that obviously Coriolanus will be president of Panem at some point. So he goes, but as he's about to get on the train, his boss is like, oh, plot twist, you have a new assignment. And we find out that Viola Davis, she has personally requested that Anus be her assistant. And then we see his life change. Now he's rich, he's doing shit. He kills Peter Dinklage, poisons his ass. And then we see him standing like in the Capitol Center with like an entirely new look. And of course, predicting that he will become president.
A very David Bowie look.
The end. And then he also asks about Lucy Gray, and no one knows where she is. But we can assume that she'll probably be in the next movie.
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, there is so much going on. What did I like about this movie?
Viola Davis.
I think Viola Davis and Jason
Schwartzman as Lucretius Flickerman, who I think we can presume is supposed to be the father of the Stanley Tucci character.
Yes.
The host of the Hunger Games.
Those two are like by far the best part of the movie. And I don't know why we wouldn't make a movie about this sumptuous capital and all these ridiculous people. Like the only time I had fun is when I was around those two. But we spend more than half the movie with the tributes and like all that miserableness. And
it's kind of like the Batman films.
All these dusty ass people.
Villains are always more fun.
Yeah.
But Viola Gray is giving me Clarence Williams III from Tales from the Hood doing Dr. Mengele.
Sure. She is just so sumptuous. It's like, oh, I just can't get enough of her. And I was not expecting to like her. I think that she's usually very serious, even when she shouldn't be.
Sure.
I don't see her ever being fun in a role. And in this one, even though she's an evil person, it felt like she was having fun.
I think she's really fun in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
I like her in that movie.
I do too.
But this one, I really enjoyed her in this. Yeah. But yeah, I think the worst part of the movie, and I'm so sorry to say this because I also didn't like her in West Side Story, but Rachel Zegler.
I felt very ambivalent about her in her debut, West Side Story, but I wish that she had been more worried about hiring a dialect coach than about going to Oscar parties, because
she has this country fried accent.
Like she landed in the Loretta Lynn biopic that we already have. Like, I want to be a tribute due.
Because her people are like nomadic people.
Yeah, they're like Roma. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why she has this accent. It's not very well done in my opinion. Then she sings so much of it, like, I wrote down twice, I'm so tired of her singing.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it. And then she's doing like this country twang to it, that beautiful voice. But she also has this Kerry Washington vibe to me. Like, she's dead behind the eyes. She does this weird thing with her mouth.
Uh-huh.
And then I can't help but like compare her to Jennifer Lawrence, who feels so strong and capable. Mm-hmm. And then because Rachel Zegler is so petite and fragile looking, and even in this film seems so physically incapable and passive, it was not a pleasure to watch her in the second part of the movie during the Hunger Games.
She just sidesteps everything. She doesn't get her hands dirty, even though she thinks she has. No. When
I said the movie is long, silly, and dark, the silly part is that there are some moments where it's silly fun, like Jason Schwartzman and Viola Davis. Couldn't get enough of them. Silly dumb, Anus and Lucy Pearl, they like, Anus does not seem like he would end up being president. Everyone keeps saying he's the top student, he's so smart, he has these brilliant ideas. But watching him in action, I did not get that at all. And then Lucy, like, oh, there's a point where she's singing a ballad about herself.
Right. Her people are called the Covey, is the terminology that she uses. And it's like, shouldn't everybody else sing that ballad about you? Not, why are you singing about yourself while you're longingly looking up at me?
Let me get through these notes. The film opens 3 years before the first Hunger Games, which was kind of a letdown, finding out that the movie is not about the first Hunger Games. So I don't know why we need to start 3 years before the first one. All we're seeing is little Anus and his cousin running around, trying to find food. And then we flash forward 10 years. Did you feel like we needed that?
No, but it explains the strange family dynamic that they're placed in with his grandmam and cousin.
Speaking of how much I hated names, like the name I hated the most was Grandmam, which reminded me of Gaget in the True to the Game
True to the Game
movies.
films, yeah. Although Finola Flanagan's fine in this. She doesn't really have that much to do. But this film more than the others feels like Charles Dickens doing Logan's Run and then pasted into a House of Cards type soap opera. But not as smart as any of that might sound.
No. So the scene where all the tributes are being chosen, of course, Lucy is the final one to be chosen. And we see that it's the mayor of her district, it's her daughter who ultimately gets killed, who kind of made it so that Lucy gets assigned to be tribute.
So she could take her man.
And when Lucy as she walks up to be tribute, she has a snake in her hand that she puts in the mayor's daughter's like back and she freaks out. So when Lucy gets to the podium, one of those stormtroopers knocks the shit out of her.
I think it's the mayor.
Is it the mayor?
Yeah.
That was actually... So the dark part of this movie is that there are many scenes where I was kind of shocked. Like, oh, this is like a YA PG-13 movie?
Right. There's death and murder and violence.
Yeah, but they knocked the shit out of her. And then she's on the ground. And then this is where the singing started. And I was just over it instantly. Because she starts singing. And then she ends her song with Kiss My Ass. Which, of course, reminded me of Whitney.
Very Whitney, yes. I think I leaned over and said that to you.
You did.
But, of course, that's supposed to be a foreboding element of she's the songbird and she's already having an affair with the snake.
Oh, sure. Another dark moment is, so now that the Hunger Games are being televised, the mentors are trying to figure out how to get like the popular vote. So they end up going to the zoo where all of the tributes are being held like animals and they're like feeding them and trying to coax them to do more. And the bitchy mentor, like the one who's called out as being like a really unkind person, her tribute stabs her in the throat.
She gets shanked with a broken bottle.
I was shocked. That was pretty dark to me.
That was pretty good.
Because then her tribute just gets shot and killed.
Yeah.
Okay. Every scene with Viola. Well, let me start with this. So this film is going to have two nominees for worst hair and worst makeup. So let's just go there.
Okay.
Worst hair is being awarded to Anus. What's his name?
Tom Blyth.
So this kid is a very handsome young man, clearly naturally brunette, but his character in the movie when we meet him has like light blonde hair that's like very box blonde. It's like Barbie doll hair, very fake.
L'Oreal.
And then his eyebrows look like they've been lightened. And clearly he's wearing a wig. When he is made peacemaker, they shave his head. And then it's clear that his hair changes a lot while he's a stormtrooper because it's buzzed, but when it first gets buzzed, you see he has roots. So they probably had to like bleach and tone his natural hair. So that already looks like crazy to me. He actually looked like that boy from Triangle of Sadness.
Harris Dickinson.
He's in a movie where he has that exact same like style. But then towards the end of him being a stormtrooper, his hair is like platinum blonde. It just doesn't make sense to me. Then at one point, someone says, oh, I think it's his cousin, sees his hair grown out. And she's like, oh, your curls.
She had to shave his curls, yeah.
What curls did this boy have? I hated. When his head's buzzed, he looks great, but it's so weird. Like, so you're bleaching your hair in the district? Like, okay.
But the look in the wardrobe in the third section, the Peacekeeper, it feels like a Soviet propaganda film set in the American deep south of the 1950s.
Then once he's at the Capitol again and he's rich, he's grown his hair out and he has sort of like an undercut pompadour that it's very fake blonde, but I just hated his hair in the first part of the movie. And then Viola. Her fashions are sick. She's so great in it. I love her hair. Her shoes. Is very Tales from the Hood.
Her shoes too.
Well, because her shoes are kind of like fashion clogs, like
fashion orthopedic
clogs.
Very Stevie Nicks.
But her makeup, it's worse makeup for sure. She looks like she's wearing like she looks like a cadaver.
Yeah,
like she's wearing cremation number 4 on her face. It's terrible. I don't. That had to have been a choice. Like there's no way no one saw that.
I think we're supposed to assume she's transformed herself by self-experimentation.
Her skin looks like paper mache.
It does look bad.
It looks like someone literally took Elmer's glue and newspaper and put it over her face.
Very Colleen Gray and the Leech Woman.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But, so Viola's office, she has all these science experiments and the sort of key, like centerpiece of that is she has these rainbow snakes. And they are very important to the story because apparently if they have the scent of someone ahead of time, they won't attack them. So she uses those snakes because Anus has like his best friend, not unlike Peter Dinklage and Anus's dad were like that. Anus has this girl classmate who wants to take credit for his work because Viola Davis had asked him, give me a proposal for how you would make the Hunger Games better. She reads the proposal and she's like, it's amazing. I want you to help me. And that's when his girlfriend stands up like, oh, well, I helped him too, which is a lie. So when they get to the Capitol to Viola, she's like, oh, little girl, you wrote this letter? Okay, well, since you wrote it, I want you to stick your hand in this snake pit and pull the letter out. Because I noticed that the letter's covered in like, whoever wrote it was sweating. So my snakes know that person's sweat. So if you stick your hand in there, they won't attack you. So of course this dumb girl sticks her hand in there and the snakes attack her. I thought that was a very good scene and everything out of Viola's mouth was so like, mwah! I loved it. And then that snake scene is important because at the end, when...
Of part two.
In part two, when Viola's like, the Hunger Games are taking too long, people are getting bored because there's this rebellion that might happen. She's like, I'm gonna drop all these snakes and kill everyone. That's when Anus sneaks in and puts his handkerchief in the snake pit because he had used that handkerchief to wipe off Lucy's sweat. And it does work, but then at the end when they investigate like how in the hell did that happen, they see that not only did Anus shove that handkerchief in the snake pit, but he had also given Lucy Gray a compact filled with like
rat poison.
Rat poison. So he had cheated in two ways. So that's what gets him hemmed up. But the arena ends up getting bombed by rebels. And that's what precipitates like the Hunger Games needing to be accelerated. I thought the actual Hunger Games were interesting enough. It's just that you know that Lucy Gray is going to make it. So we're just waiting for everyone to be dispatched. Supporting the fact that I think she's kind of dumb. She has this allegiance to the other guy in her district named Jessup, who was bit by
a rabid bat.
So now he has rabies and is like delirious and she will not just let him be. That was really frustrating to me.
Well, she's supposed to be seen as this kind of savior, you know, and they did the same thing with Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson and
I thought it worked better in those though. Like how Jennifer Lawrence was really protective of that little girl. I thought that felt more natural. But in this film, her being so stuck on this man who's literally turning into Night of the Living Dead seems so stupid.
Yeah.
Then we see that they, you know, how they can buy their tribute stuff, but the money people donate. We see that the drones that carry
a rudimentary
are they ain't shit, which was part of the storyline. I thought that was fun. Ugh. So the scene when the snakes avoid Lucy Gray, again, she starts singing to the snakes. That was cringy to me.
Because to the public, it looks like her voice has soothed them, whereas Viola and Coryo know differently.
I thought the dialogue felt like people were just rambling quotes. And I don't recall the other four movies, which I think I saw all four.
Did you?
Did I? I know I saw more than one.
Sure.
I don't recall feeling this way about the dialogue in those.
The Mockingjay, and I love Julianne Moore, but I didn't need those films. But it...
Particularly between the two leads.
Yes, I think those are bad.
Especially since we're supposed to believe that they've had this like torrid romance. We only really see them by a lake once, sort of like embracing each other and like pledging their allegiance to one another. This felt like, I wrote down it felt like the romance between Mark Patton and Meryl Streep in Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Unbelievable.
Just unbelievable. Like, where is this coming from?
When they want it to be like Ryan O'Neal and Ally McGraw and Love Story. Speaking of which, I think Rachel Zegler is a dead ringer for Brooke Adams circa late 70s films like Shockwaves and Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Gorgeous. Well, that lady's gorgeous.
She looks just like her, though.
Yeah. I feel like all I did was shit on this movie. It's not... What else do you want to say about it? It looks great.
The production value, if you think back, Gary Ross, who directed the first Hunger Games and only one he directed, I don't think had quite the budget because we didn't know what kind of money that was going to make. So I remember thinking the Capitol and Elizabeth Banks' wardrobe and everything looked kind of cheap and chintzy. So I think they've remedied that because they're coming at this with a higher production value. Joe Willems, who shot several for Francis Lawrence, returns as DP. He also did Hard Candy. I think it looks fine. James Newton Howard, of course, the score is, as well as you'd expect it to be from somebody like that. It's just that the storytelling is so obvious, but it could have, I don't know, stood to be a lot subtler.
I think this could have been broken up into 2 movies.
By the time we get to the end of part 2, it's like, oh God, we have to.
I was so done.
Especially because I think part 3 is the most underwhelming part, except for, and then we get these 2 friends who, Tom Blyth and Andrés Rivera, they look like a young Peter O'Toole and a young Vincent D'Onofrio who are about to make sweet love. This is what they seem like.
Yeah. What would you give this movie?
I would give it 2.5.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.